I'm going to start recording since I forgot. Sorry about that, folks. But I love this image on your screen because what it represents to me is when I first looked at it, I thought there are two people that are blaming each other, right? They're pointing at each other like it's his fault, it's her fault. And then I looked at it with a different angle and I thought, you know what? Maybe that's just two people holding each other accountable. And really, what I want to make sure you have in this class is that you have an accountability partner. You need to have somebody that you're reporting to on a weekly basis. And you should have, a coaching contract that you can give to them and say, hey, please hold me accountable. But you also have the blueprint, the 90-day blueprint cards. And if you don't have those, you can send me an email and I'll make sure I get them to you. But you have these 90-day action blueprint cards that break down the 7 areas that you need to be held accountable on a weekly basis. And we all need this. I carry one of these around and fill it out because I need to report my numbers to my coach because I know if I'm not accountable to anybody, I'm not going to grow and my business isn't going to grow. So the number one place you need to be accountable is in how many people you meet on a daily basis. Now, keep in mind, this is not that you prospected them. It's not that you gave them a tool or a sample. You just collected their name. If it was convenient or possible, get their email address, get a phone number, but make sure you're meeting at least 2 people a day. That assignment never goes away. You want to meet 2 people a day for the rest of your life. And if you'll just do it for the next 60 to 90 days, you'll never have to think about it again. It'll just be a habit. But for right now, fill in that box every day of the month. How many people did you add to your list that day? Just get your journal at the end of the day and open it up, count up the number of names, and write your number in the box. The second thing you need to be held accountable for, how many invitations did you give? No, an invitation means you used one of the scripts that you role played during the week this last week. One of those scripts that you wrote out and then memorized by role playing it 15 times a day. And now as you meet people, you're going to find that if you keep role playing those scripts every day, you're just going to accidentally invite somebody, which is going to be awesome. That's when you know you're truly a professional in inviting, when it rolls off your tongue without you thinking about it. So you want to track how many invitations, how many proper invitations to view an Fuze exposure did I give today? The third thing you want to be accountable to, how many presentations did you give? And we're going to talk about presentations a little bit more today. Then the fourth one, which we'll be covering next week, is how many follow-up on exposures did you do? And then the last 3, you need to track how much time did you spend reading each day? How much time did you spend associating with your Fuze family, which could be presentations, meetings, events, audios, webinars, conference calls, whatever you're doing in your business, how much time did you spend doing that each day? That does not count sitting at home looking at your back office, okay? Associate means you're in communication with another person. And then the last one is how much time did you spend dream building on a daily basis? You want to make sure you track those numbers and you report those to somebody every week. Now, the people that I'm doing a personal coaching call with on a weekly basis, those are the numbers we go over. They report their numbers to me every week, and then they set a goal for what their numbers are going to be the next week. And there's power in accountability. It's kind of like this. I don't know exactly how it works in other countries, but here in the United States, we have a public school system, and it's kind of required by law that you attend school until you're 18. So what happens is by the time you're 18, you graduate high school. Well, because it's a law that you attend, a very high percentage of kids here in the U.S. get a high school diploma. They complete their high school education. But then they go off to college. And guess what? College costs money, but it's also a choice, right? It's not a law. Your parents aren't required to send you. And all of a sudden, what happens in college, a very low percentage of people that start college actually finish and get a degree. And the biggest reason why is a simple accountability. Nobody's following up to make sure you attended your classes every day. So if you really want to become a champion, my midweek message, hopefully y'all got a chance to listen to that. But if you listen to Michael Jordan, no one had to make Michael Jordan practice, right? He wanted to master the skills of basketball. He wanted to be the greatest player to ever play the game. But he always made sure he had a coach, somebody that would watch what he was doing, give him pointers, and readjust and teach him different things. So we all need a coach. So you have a buddy in this class. This week, we're really going to start the accountability. Okay, so you need to track your numbers and you need to come to this class or go to your coaching call every week prepared to report. How many people did you meet? How many invitations did you give? How many follow-ups did you give? How many minutes did you spend reading? How many minutes did you spend associating? And how many minutes did you spend dreaming on a daily basis? Make sure you're reporting those things every week. So if you don't have an accountability relationship, pair up with somebody, call your upline and say, I need to be held accountable. And then every week when you call them, report your numbers, number one, and number two, have your goals ready for what you're going to do the next week. This accountability concept will really drive your business to the next level if you will participate. So we're going to talk today about presenting. And presenting can be a scary topic because some of you joined the business because you went to a business opportunity presentation somewhere and you watched somebody stand up and give an hour-long presentation, probably using a PowerPoint. And so when I say we need to learn how to present, you think, oh my gosh, I can never learn everything I saw in that meeting. So just like any of the other skills, we're going to break down presenting into a very simple, concise process. And really, all a business presentation is, or a business overview, is a story. So if you can start thinking of it as you're just telling a story and you want people to hear your story and be inspired to take action with you on this XFuse journey, then all we have to do is get really good at writing a story that will compel people to want to follow you. So we want to break this down. The hour-long business presentation or half-hour-long presentation you were given when you joined, you were given by somebody who started out just learning to tell a testimonial or just learning to invite on a very basic way. So what you want to do to learn how to present is have a process for how you tell your story and how you have other people on your team tell your story. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, you know what, presenting's no big deal for me. I've been doing presentations for years. I know what I'm doing, so I don't need to worry about this. Remember, just like with all the other skills, it's not what you can do. In network marketing, it doesn't matter what works. It only matters what duplicates. So even if you're a very polished speaker and an excellent, maybe you teach seminars for a living, when it comes to this business, you need to make sure your story is something that anybody else can write their story and give it their first few days in the business. So how do we write a basic story? There's 4 components I want you to write down, 4 pieces to your story that you want to write out. And it's really important. I know it seems kind of cheesy or weird, but it's really important that you actually script out your story and memorize it. So you say the same thing every single time you're talking to somebody. And the reason why that's important is that uh, you want to be duplicatable. So if you're out building the business with a brand new person and you go to a presentation, that person might be like, wow, that was an amazing presentation. I could never learn how to do that. Then you go to your second friend's house and your upline gives the exact same presentation. And then you go to the third house and they give the exact same presentation. Pretty soon, that person you're training is going to go, wait a minute. Myra says the exact same thing every time we talk about this. She's just memorized that. And once they figure out it's you just learned a story and memorized it and tell the exact same story every time, then it becomes very simple for them to say, well, I could do the same thing. So the first thing I want you to do is write out 2 stories, one regarding the business and one regarding the product. And the first piece to your story is your background. Okay, so I have this little monkey on the screen saying, where have you been lately? Right? You want to tell your background. What's been going on in your life? What did you do for a living? Or what's been going on prior to you being introduced to XFuse? So the step number 1, write out your background. Step number 2, write out what you didn't like about your background. This is confession time, right? So you're going to share with them something. Maybe you were a real estate agent and you were the number 1 real estate agent in your city. And all of a sudden you say, you know what, it's confession time. I didn't like being a real estate agent, right? So you're going to tell them whatever it was that you didn't like about your background. Then you're going to talk about how XFuse came to the rescue, right? How getting involved in this opportunity or with this product changed what you didn't like about your background. And then finally, the 4th step is your future. Paint a picture for them as to how you see your future now that you're a part of the XFuse family and now that you're taking action. So let me give you an example. And as you listen, I want you to try and identify those 4 pieces. This is my business story. Okay, this is for the opportunity. I would say to someone, listen, I had a very successful real estate and mortgage company. I actually loved the work and I loved the lifestyle it afforded me and my family until the summer of 2008. While my very industry was collapsing all around me, a good friend taught me how to build consumer networks. I had no clue what that even was back then, but I now know it was an answer to my prayers. Building consumer networks has given me a sense of purpose and lifestyle I could only dream of a few short years ago. And to top it off, I'm having a blast working with some amazing friends and people that I love. So that just rolls off my tongue because it's something that I've memorized. Okay, now let's identify the pieces together. I told them my background was in real estate and I actually loved the work, right? Now, what didn't I like about it? The summer of 2008, we had a global financial crisis. The mortgage and real estate industry in the United States virtually like disappeared overnight for the last 6 years. Okay, so I identify while my very industry was collapsing, a good friend taught me how to build consumer networks, right? So here comes XFuse to the rescue, right? I didn't know what consumer networks were back then, but now I know it was an answer to my prayers, right? This was the very thing I was praying every night. You know, God, please send me an opportunity. Please give me a way to find some security in these scary times. Please help me take care of my family, right? And that's when a friend taught me how to build consumer networks. Then the future, right? I say, look, building consumer networks has given me a sense of purpose and lifestyle I could only dream of a few years ago. And I get to work with some of my best friends for the rest of my life, changing lives, making a positive impact. So those are the 4 components. There's my business story. Now let's talk about my product story, and we'll see if we can identify the same pieces. I'll just change the slides as we hit them, right? So I never cared about or had a nutrition for nutrition. But when I started to feel the effects of stress and age on my body, I started taking Xfuse products 6 years ago, and now I feel like I'm 20 again. Because of Xfuse, I will be in the best shape of my life for my 40th birthday this upcoming December. See, that's even a much shorter one. Just takes a few seconds. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to script out 2 stories. One about how you see this business being exciting, and one about how you are experiencing the Xfuse products and what that is doing for your life. Now, why do you want to script these out and memorize them? Just for exactly for the same reason you wanted to script out and memorize an invite. If you're out there meeting people, just walking around, being happy, cheery, shaking hands, getting names for your journal, right? All of a sudden, one day you're going to bump into somebody. And those of you that have been meeting people, it's already happened. You met somebody that you went, wow, that's a really positive person, or there was just that little connection where you thought, wow, I would really like working with somebody like that. When you have that moment is not the time to go, wait a minute, what was I supposed to say again? What were those 8 steps of the invite? And if you have to think about what you're going to say, you're going to mess it up 99% of the time. Right? But if it just naturally flows off your tongue and you don't even have to think about it, it's just what comes out, then it's very, very easy to accidentally invite somebody. Okay, now many times a story leads to an invite. So you're out and about and you're meeting people, and all of a sudden somebody says, somebody says, wow, recently, I'll give you a personal example. Recently, over the last 6 months, I've lost 40 pounds. So my body size has changed pretty dramatically, and people notice. So I bumped into a friend that I hadn't seen for a long time, and he said, Joe, you look great. What are you doing? Right? Well, guess what happened? When he said, Joe, you look great. What are you doing? Instantly, I said, I never really cared about or had a passion for nutrition or diet, but I was starting to feel the effects of stress and age on my body. I started taking Xfuse products 6 years ago, and now I feel like I'm 20 again. And in the last 6 months, I've gone on their weight loss program and I've lost 40 pounds. But guess what? I'm not done yet. I'm going to be in the best shape of my life this December on my 40th birthday. Right? So when that rolls off my tongue, then all of a sudden he says, well, what is Xfuse? Right? When he asks what is Xfuse, I roll right into my invite. I tell him, hey, listen, you know what? I'm really in a hurry. I don't have a lot of time right now, but I'm glad you asked, because you know what? You're one of the most influential people that I've ever known in my life. I've always really admired that about you. Listen, if there was a way that maybe you and I could team up and make some money together marketing these products, obviously you see they work with the change of my physique. I think maybe you and I working together could do something really special. If I was to give you a DVD that gave you all the information, would you watch it? Right? And then I just confirm the time, set the follow-up, reconfirm the time, and get out of his presence. So those things can happen just by chance if you're scripted, if it's memorized. Now, I have to admit, when I first started learning how to master these 7 skills, I didn't like this part of it at all, because I'm very much a person, I love talking to people and I love interacting with people, and inviting and presenting really aren't a big challenge for me, which doesn't mean I never get nervous or afraid. It just means they're not a big challenge for me to do because of other things I've done in my life, in my past. But what I realized is that every time I gave a presentation, it was a different presentation. Every time I gave a story, I'd tell it a little different because I was tailoring it to the person. So I would watch the prospect's body language and I would try and go wherever I was getting some positive vibes back. The challenge is that worked great for me, but it was highly unduplicatable. Okay. Other people on my team didn't have the same life experience in reading body language and in conversation and in presenting and selling. So they couldn't take what I was doing and do it. When I memorized a story, when I memorized an invite and then started using those processes, all of a sudden people on my team, when we would go out and work together, they would start to go, wow, Joe's saying the same thing over and over again. And then they would realize if he can memorize something, I can memorize something. So whether it's comfortable or not, for me, I still have to push myself to be scripted and to try and say the exact same things because I know that's what is truly duplicatable and will make a big difference. Now, for your homework, number one, if you haven't yet, make sure you read my chapter on presenting and Eric Worre's and GoPro. Make sure you get that background because you're going to learn why it's critical to your business that you become the presenter. Okay, it's great that you have an awesome upline that will help you for a time, but your business will never grow and duplicate if you don't step up to the plate and be the presenter. But you don't have to learn how to present the whole presentation. Get good at giving a testimonial. Get good at telling this little story. And then what happens when you get really comfortable telling your 60-second story? Then you just expand a little bit. You tell them a little bit more about your background, a little bit more about what you didn't like, a little bit more about how Xfuse came to the rescue, and a little bit more about how you see your future. You take those same four pieces, and pretty soon you're telling a 5-minute story, then a 15-minute story, then a 30-minute story. And before you know it, you'll be telling your 30-minute story in a room full of 100 people and having 25 of them sign up after the meeting. And you'll be driving home in the car you want to drive, living in the house you want to live, taking the vacations you want to take, all because you learned how to master the skill of presenting by learning how to tell a 60 to 90-second story. So make sure you read the chapters. Then number one assignment, write out 2 stories this week. One that is your business story and one that is your product story, following the format of those 4 steps. Number 2, role play both stories a minimum of 5 times per day. So you need to write those out today. It won't take long. It'll take 20 minutes. Write them out today and then start role playing them a minimum of 5 times every single day till they just roll off your tongue. Number 3 assignment. Set up an appointment for your upline to give an opportunity presentation for you to one of your prospects. Do not call your upline and say, can I tag along as you go present to somebody else? You set the appointment, right? Do an invitation, set an appointment, and invite your upline to come and do an opportunity presentation for you. Then I want you to take either your phone or a digital recorder or a tape recorder and record the presentation that your upline gives so that you can listen to it over and over and over again. And listen to the story they tell, the presentation they tell. The way I learned how to give an opportunity presentation was I listened to other people's opportunity presentations over and over and over till I learned the stories they were telling, and then I just learned how to tell those stories in my own words. So number 3, this is the first time I'm really going to ask you to face your fears and actually invite somebody to listen to an opportunity presentation. So those are your 3 assignments. Guys, I'll tell you the thing that helps me the very most is hearing feedback. If you're getting something from the assignments, if you're experiencing some change in your life and your business, please send me an email or a text. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you like. Let me know if it was hard or uncomfortable. And this week in particular, I would love to help you make sure your stories are done in a concise and great way. So when you write out your 2 stories, I would love it if you would email them to me, jjmelling@gmail.com. Send me your stories. Let me review them. Make sure they have the 4 points. If I have any great feedback, I'll let you know. But I would love to hear from you all at jjmelling@gmail.com. Love to hear how things are going with your assignments and what's happening with your business. And with that, folks, my wish for you is that you'll choose to become an XFuse professional. You know, that you'll choose to go pro and treat your business like it's a big business, like it's the $100 million a year business that it can be for each one of you. Because I know that if you'll learn these 7 skills, if you'll master the skills and do the simple assignments, this business will change everything in your life. I know that because it's happened for me and happened for countless others around the globe. So I love you. I appreciate your time. And with that, we'll see y'all next week.